Hello, everybody. This is Darren coming at you on another Monday night. Monday night's a little more Mark for you. So tonight we're going to look at Mark 3, 7 through 19, technically 19a. It's one of those fun times when the translators decide just to stop in the middle of a verse and just cut it off. But so let's read this. I want to catch a little bit of the end of what we did last time, which was Mark 3, 1 through 6. Just that that last verse after he heals the man with the withered hand in 3:6. It says, the Pharisees went out and immediately conspired with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him. Then it goes on. Jesus departed with his disciples to the sea, and a great multitude from Galilee followed him. Hearing all that he was doing, they came to him in great numbers from Judea, Jerusalem, Idumea, beyond the Jordan, and the region of Tyre and Sidon. He told his disciples to have a boat ready for him because of the crowd, so that they would not crush him. For he had cured many, so that all who had diseases pressed upon him to touch him. Whenever the unclean spirits saw him, they fell down before him and shouted, "You are the Son of God." But he sternly ordered them not to make him known. He went up to the mountain and called to him those whom he wanted, and they came to him. And he appointed 12, whom he also named apostles, to be with him, and to be sent out to proclaim the message, and to have authority to cast out demons. So he appointed the 12, Simon, to whom he gave the name Peter, James, son of Zebedee, and John, the brother of James, to whom was given the name Boanerges, that is, sons of thunder, and Andrew, and Philip, and Bartholomew, and Matthew, and Thomas, and James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, and Simon the Canaanian, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. All right. So, I just want to jump into a couple things here. First of all, notice right away that you have this, right away you have the scene here where right before you have everybody plotting to kill Jesus, so to destroy him, as it says. And what I find interesting about this is that we often, I think, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm just going to go from my typical, middle class, white, seminary educated, reading that I've been given of these things and what I grew up with in church in a fairly, white middle class church, is that we read these things about, these groups finding and plotting ways to destroy Jesus. And it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of, maybe we flash forward to the crucifixion and we think about how that, has some kind of theological meaning for us. But very seldom do we think about the very material day-to-day realities that are associated with the powers that be, the people who are in charge, the groups who are so-called leaders in an area or in a place. And if they don't like you, and if they want to destroy you, what that means for your day-to-day reality, for who you are and how you live. We don't think about that very much. This you can see this going back to the beginning of the gospel, where it talks about how John is arrested and Jesus picks up his ministry kind of where John left off after being arrested and then eventually killed. What it means to be in line of ministry, and in a line of organizing and working with people, where the person before you has been arrested and is facing death, more or less. And then here, when the powers that are seeking, are the powers that be in the area, are seeking to destroy you, what that means, what that's like day to day. We don't think about that a lot. We kind of think of Jesus kind of floating around in all of this. But as we see here, I mean, part of what Jesus is doing in this gospel, and what Mark is trying to show us, is that there is a pattern being established that we are intended to follow. Um, we are going to be the ones given the authority that Jesus had. It's going to be passed on to the apostles, and then passed on again to Jesus' disciples. So we have to think about the real world realities that are behind this, and what they might look like today, and how they would apply today. But before that, we narrative wise, if you're reading this story, if you're reading along, you get this far in, and there's been some conflict with the authorities and the rulers, and Jesus has shown that he has a unique kind of authority, and with the people, where they listen to him and they notice that he's bringing something different, and he's healing and he's casting out demons. But you get to this moment where the powers that be are ready to destroy him. And so narratively, there's some question marks, right? What's going to happen to this movement now, if the people who are in charge are seeking to destroy this person? What does it mean? And interestingly, in the narrative, Mark basically goes back again and kind of resets where we've been before. Jesus brought his disciples to the sea. You remember that this is, I think, the second or third time that Jesus is passing along the sea. So basically, it's saying that, look, sometimes those who are in charge, sometimes those who like the way things are, who are happy with the status quo, they're going to seek to silence you. They're going to seek to set you aside, to destroy you even. But in the text and in the story, Mark and Jesus are saying, when that happens, all you can do is just get back to work. All you can do is get back to the business at hand. Get back to proclaiming and manifesting what they will call in this text the kingdom of God, the embrace of the outsider, the healing of the sick, the casting out of all of the evil and wrong that is going on in the society. When the powers that be come after you, all you can do is get back to the work at hand. And then that's the first thing. And the second thing is, just as I don't know if you can see the title that I chose, and I'm not sure I remember what the title is, but I think I put the title as choosing our collaborators, choosing the people who we are going to be in struggle with in whatever we're doing. And hopefully, if you're reading this gospel and you're trying to be somewhat inspired by this gospel, you're thinking about the work of again, bringing healing, bringing wholeness, fighting for those who have been set on the outside of the society, those who are put on the margins, facing poverty and oppression. That you're fighting for healing, wholeness, justice, liberation, all the good things. What this text is saying, part of it is you will need to collect some people around you who can be your collaborators, who can be the people who you're working with and fighting with and struggling with and learning with so that what you do comes out of not just your own ideas and formations, but comes out of the Spirit drawing you together with people who are trying to be inspired by that same Spirit, to do the um, work that Jesus left for us to do. And so Jesus clearly calls together the 12. I mean, this is obviously symbolic and representational. It's meant to say, the configuration that was the early people of Israel, the people of God in the desert at Mount Sinai, are being reconstituted here with Jesus as this kind of new Moses, with these folks gathered around him, to become this this confederation, this community that will continue the work that God has set for all of humanity as its vocation. And we could get into what that looks like, but the point of the gospel is to say that looking at how Jesus interacts will give you a clue about what God is calling all of us to. So Jesus gathers around him this group of people who will be his collaborators, who will be the people that he will work with. And this will be important. I think that we've seen kind of in the most recent events going on, that all of us need some kind of group of people, some kind of organization, some kind of configuration that will keep us focused on the right things, that will help us to hone together what God is calling us to do and be in the world, what the shape of justice will look like, what the pathway will look like to bring liberation and healing and wholeness to folks. We need organizations, and we need collaborators. We need configurations that will do that, help us do that. And obviously, Mark's community that he's writing to in this text was intended to be that, and we can call that the church. We can call that, this congregation that is set up here. And ideally, that's what our congregations are meant to be, and drawn together in a wider scope to collaborate congregation to congregation in this way of bringing about what God intends for the world. Now, I don't want to get into all the ways that this institution of the church has become, basically self-serving and, not displaying much evidence of, something that would look like the same fruit that Jesus was bearing, or that Jesus was calling us to bear in the world. I think in some ways we could learn a lot from other organizations that are committed to, that are more easily committed to the liberation and wholeness work that Jesus was about, without there being this institutional church around it. So, but I think, let's just put it this way: we will be called by the Spirit to gather together with others to do the work that God is calling us to do. We will not be able to do this alone, and we will not be able just to depend on the groups and institutions that are already easily established for us. It will be we'll be called into new formations, and they will cause us to challenge our assumptions, to challenge ourselves, and to critique ourselves, and to hone our understanding of not only who God is, but what God is calling us to. And so, in light of all of that, I want to go back to this this idea of the Pharisees, the Herodians, and the people setting out to destroy Jesus, and think about what that might look like for our recent past, or to get an idea of how we might get a mental image of this. And I think, what I've been thinking about this a lot. Coming out of the civil rights / human rights / Black Power movement of the 50s through the early 70s, you have all of these people really, and not just individuals, but groups of people trying to show and demonstrate different ways of being in the world that are focused on liberation, freedom for everyone, and a self-determination in a way that actually allows people to be fed, to have houses, to to just have basic human rights in the midst of all that was going on at that time. And what we see is that some of the most basic things that people were calling for, simple, human rights, was demands for human rights, were met with the same plotting and planning that we see at the end of, that we see in chapter 3, verse 6. I mean, you have COINTELPRO, you have infiltrating, organizations. I didn't watch it because I don't want to get caught up in all in some of that, but the Judas and the Black Messiah movie demonstrates this. It goes into this. All of these things give us an idea of what it means in the material world, in the real world, for when the powers that be decide that they want to destroy you, when they want to come after you. And they don't, and they're not just seeking to destroy you, they're seeking to destroy the whole thing, to keep things the way they are, to quiet the threat, to make it go away. And what we end up with coming out of those early 70s is, just a mass of political prisoners, people locked away, if not killed, if not assassinated, locked away, many on just clearly trumped up manufactured charges. And nowadays, maybe after just instance after instance of the justice system clearly not working, maybe we recognize now that that these prisoners are political prisoners. They're in there for no other reason than because of their political stance and the desire on the part of our government to destroy them, for the powers that be to destroy them. In particular, I just want, for the one or two people who are listening to me out there, just to really raise up the name of Mumia Abu Jamal, who just had surgery, came out of that. There's been some some recent demonstrations by folks related to him and concerned about freeing him and finally getting him free. Um, I put some links in the description here for ways you can read about his case and all of the the ways that he was framed, all the things that he's been going through, some interest, some and also, I mean, I don't know if you've been following this. Part of his reporting early on that got him in some trouble was he was closely associated with the Move organization in Philadelphia, the one that was the house that was bombed in 1985 by when there was a well, anyway, we won't go into that, but there was they were bombed in 85. Just like dropped a bomb right on the house and destroyed a lot of a city block. You might have seen that their organization's been in the news recently because University of Pennsylvania and I think Princeton have been studying some of the bones of the children from that house that were taken out after they were murdered in this bombing, and they've been using them for science this whole time. Anyway, that goes a little off topic, but just looking at the cases of some of these political prisoners, Mumia Abu Jamal in particular, I mean, I think gives us a good background to think about what it means when you're living and moving in an area where the people in power are looking at you and seeing you as as someone they want to destroy, as representing a movement, as representing a direction for the world that they never want to see have the light of day, and what they will do to you. And I think getting this into our thought pattern this early on in Mark helps us to approach the crucifixion with more of a savvy understanding of the political reality, and not just, oh, it's inevitable that Jesus is going to come and die, we don't need to worry about all this stuff that happens in between. No, I mean, what Jesus is doing, how Jesus is living, sets a pattern for us. And it's important for us to recognize that some of the things that Jesus is going through are things that people are going through now. And our tendency as people who come from, a comfortable class position, or come from a place where we think about most of these Bible readings as, as things that are in our heads or ideas that we have and not related to the reality on the ground. If we don't make the connections between what's happening in the scriptures to the ways that people are living in this world, one, we ignore their realities, not relating it to our own religious understanding and our understanding of how God is trying to move in the world. And so we assume that, if it's not happening in church, then it must not be religious. When you have people out on the street trying to bring justice and liberation to people by the movement of the Holy Spirit, and we're missing out on it. We don't think of it. We don't know of it. And in the meantime, we have prisoners who are trying to bring the things that God is calling us to bring, and we are not setting them free like we're called to do from Jesus in Luke 4. So all that, maybe it ties together, maybe it doesn't, maybe it does for you. And if it does, then I would encourage you to follow some of those links. There's petition after petition, and there's a little video from the rally that happened in Philly over the weekend. You can check that out. And that's just, and there's also a link in there to the Jericho movement, which has a lot more information about political prisoners. So check that out. And and then I just, the other thing I would say is, this becomes even, we see this even clearer when we see how Mark ends this section with the introduction of the 12. You have this community that's being called together to be, to share in the work of Jesus, to share in what he's doing to bringing about the kingdom. And how does it end? It ends with Judas, who betrays him, right? So there's a a serious realism in Mark's story. It doesn't yes, you need to find an organization, a community that will help you to see where God is calling you, especially in the work of liberation and justice that needs to happen. But we also need to be aware that not everybody there is going to remain true. It's going to be faithful. Not everybody's willing to to take the cup as as Jesus talks about near the end of his life. But and well, I don't have. I mentioned the book in the notes, but I won't get into that story. But that's okay. I was just going to say a little something about this is about Maurice Bishop and Grenada and the revolution there, and then the person who betrayed him. But if you want to find that book and check it out, you can do that at the end. Marcy, thanks for horrific. Yeah, this thing with the kids from Move is just it's out of control. I mean, and especially you think about University of Pennsylvania and Princeton, think of themselves as these kind of like elite liberal institutions, really. But here they are with these, these kids' bones. And I mean, the Move organization is still, I mean, like the people who are part of that are still around. I mean, all those families are still around. It's interesting. A lot of the folks have the last name Africa with a K, but I mean they're out in public. I mean, so it's not like if you knew that where these bones were from, you couldn't find their family. It's anyway. I won't keep going on about that, but yeah, it's horrific. It's ridiculous, and adding that on top of the situation of the political prisoners and I think there was at least nine members of their house who were in prison for on some trumped up charges too. So I think some of them might have gotten out after something like 40 years in prison. So yeah, all of this is part of the reality we need to focus on and what we're called to address, and what we have to see as probably the crowds and groups that Jesus would be moving in if he was here today. So anyway, that's what I'm going to talk about. That's what I wanted to talk about today from these texts. Next week we get into the heading is Jesus and Beelzebub, the whole strongman kind of statements in the text, which kind of form that are behind the title of Ched Meyer's big book. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I had to reading into that, and so hope to see some of you back again. And that's about it. That's all I got to say this time. So I guess I'll just say in the end, I hope that all of you out there, and I know for myself that we can find the people that we can gather around us that can help us, see the path that God is trying to lead us down, and prepare us and sharpen us and keep us sharp for doing the work that Jesus calls us to do. So grace and peace.